Good morning, everybody. Let me just make sure you guys, when you guys come on, say hi. Welcome to A Coffee with Carla. And I will be going live with Lori Dengler when she comes on and says hello. I will, there she is. Hey, Lori. Let me see if I can add you. There you are. Okay, it should be, it says it's adding you, so, oh, there goes my laundry. I forgot to shut it off. Hopefully we're going to get you on here. So I'll just start sharing. There she is.
There we are. Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Yeah. Can everybody else
I'm great.
Can people give us some hearts if you can hear us both? I'm going to do some sharing before we get started. So I can share it to some pages here.
Oh, okay.
And
I was just worried for a second because you almost cut out on me. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully this works.
yeah. Give me 2 seconds.
If not, I have to kick all my kids off of the Wi-Fi.
How is the weather there? I know you guys got snow for grad.
Oh yeah, but once it snowed, the sun came out, and then much later it was quite windy and chilly. Like the snow was literally just like wet, melting on the ground, but crazy.
I know. I thought, oh my gosh, all
Yeah.
those girls in their beautiful dresses, and I mean the guys too in their suits, but at least they don't have to drag their dresses, or they don't have a lot of material to deal with. But oh gosh, those poor girls.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't be snowing anyways.
There we go. I see us.
No.
It's deceiving because it looks nice out, but we need the moisture. So we need the.
Yeah, you guys do, don't you? Okay.
It's dry. Yeah.
I'm just gonna share this in one other group, and hopefully we will get some more people on there. You guys say hi when you join us.
I see you here. I can do it too.
Okay, awesome. This is always the part that is.
Yeah, it takes a few minutes. I know, right?
Yeah.
I got us here too.
Okay. Good morning to everybody who's joining.
And what about there? Everything's nice and.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful here actually.
Yes. Now I need to get to my own page here. I'm over on yours. There we go.
Yeah, you should just be able to share right from there. So hopefully we can, I'm very excited about this topic. There have been a number of
super excited
things happened in the last week since you and I came up with the idea to talk about this on a live that have just kind of come into this conversation that should be added to the conversation. And I mentioned it to you about being fearful in business and sales and running and doing business in a fear-based mindset, scarcity mindset, I guess that is too. It kind of goes hand in hand with rather than an abundance mindset. And I don't think people even understand they're doing it, quite honestly. Because obviously when we had our conversation.
No, they don't.
Yeah. And when we had our conversation and you pointed that out to me about what fear was doing, I did not even relate it to that. So I was very after your text, I'm like, I think we need to have this in a conversation for sure. So thank you for coming. Thank you for coming back.
You're welcome.
And
thank you for just sparking the conversation, because it's a great conversation to have.
Yeah. So why don't you just start out by saying who you are and what you do, and let people know, just if they haven't seen you on here before, let them know. And we're going to post links to Lori's stuff afterwards, and we'll put it in the comments. So yeah, go ahead, Lori.
Okay. All right. So for anybody new that's joining us today that didn't catch us last time, I am Lori Dengler with Lotus Coaching. I am a life coach. So Carla and I just had a conversation about fear, kind of actually, I guess, through a text, Carla.
Yep.
And it stemmed from a conversation we had prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will let you talk more about that. But yeah, so that's kind of what brought us here now, as you just mentioned. But
Yep.
it's big.
Yeah.
Fear is big.
Fear
And
is
I'm not talking
big,
about
and
spiders, kind of fear,
yeah,
but I am
right.
at the same time. So,
Yeah. It
so this is really sorry, when I say it's big, it is essentially life, and that's the coaching part of it. Because as you had mentioned, you didn't even realize fear was kind of running the show for yourself,
right.
and I had kind of made a comment, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yep.
So that's why coaching comes in handy, is because it helps us work through those blocks and those walls of fear. But we can get into more of that. But go ahead.
Right. So that's what I was not. So when we said, so Lori gave, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, Lori gave me the opportunity to have a coaching session with her over the phone. And I was very, very excited about that. And then the day came it was supposed to happen. And it did happen. I was like on the verge of rescheduling. And I was thinking about that this morning, and I'm like, there it was again. And I didn't even realize it. I was just like thinking I was tired. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And there was good old fear running the show right there. We went through with the call, and it ended up being quite not what I expected it would be. Didn't expect to talk about what I talked about with you. It got quite personal, but it really was very, it was incredibly helpful. It was incredibly eye-opening to me, and I am so grateful that you gave me that opportunity to do that with you. So I, in that conversation, was talking about how I wanted to write a book about some things that I have been through, and it's been on my mind for about 10 years. And I thought, okay, I'm writing this book, and something is just not sitting right with me, and I'm not sure what it is. So we talked about that in the conversation. Lori then touched base with me. I don't know, it was about a week or a little bit more maybe later, and asked me how my writing was coming, because we came up with the, maybe I just need to write in a journal and that'll be good enough. And I went rushing out right after our conversation. I bought the journal. I was all excited. Didn't write one word in it. I carried it around with me and thought, oh, well, when the thing hits me, the spirit or whatever hits me, I'm going to start writing. Carrying that sucker around, not writing a single word in it, not realizing that I wasn't just putting it off out of anything other than that's a little bit of fear stepping in front. So that's the background to how this conversation started, and how we came up with doing this again, because I think it's a huge thing that people deal with every single day, and not even realize maybe that that's what's going on. So I will let you carry on from there. That's the background.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Yes.
So it really is, and like I said, I'm not just talking about like the fear of spiders or flying. I mean, those are fears,
Yeah.
but it's actually a much deeper thing than spiders and airplanes, right? Like,
right.
It kind of goes down to, how do I want to word this? It's almost like the fear of the fear. I don't know if that makes sense, but so a fear of flying often for people is just, I mean, they're scared because they fear their life mostly.
Right.
I mean, by habit, we get in a car and drive, but we don't often get in a plane and fly, right? So like I would say, even if more so, a huge fear for people, it would be public speaking. I think the majority of the population is scared for that, right?
Yeah.
But really what happens is it's not really the idea of public speaking. We could probably go out there and do it. It's the fear of failing, fear of rejection, fear of we're not worthy enough to do that. What are we, we're going to make a complete fool of ourselves on the stage. And that goes much deeper. And that is actually the fear itself. It's not really public speaking, because that can filter onto anything. In fact, I was talking about this the other day, is what we're doing here, lots of people would never think of it, because
Yep.
it's scary. It's scary. People are going to see us, what we're saying. Are we going to be
Yep.
able to say what we need to say?
Yep.
That's also a fear.
Right.
In the same sense of public speaking. Just being ourselves, being visible, saying what we want to say, it's very uncomfortable for people. And like I said, that's the fear of the fear. Yeah. And
Right.
I can think of 1,000 examples actually of how it comes up. One of them actually just recently was my daughter was playing her very first ball game, and they hadn't maybe had 2 practices. And immediately her mind was like, oh my goodness, this team we're playing has been practicing all winter. This is going to go terrible. And just like emotion, a lot of emotion behind it. And I was like, okay, something is coming up here that isn't just about the fact that they're playing this team, because they played teams that have, challenged their own skills before, like no problem, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it came down to the day, and I was just kind of like curious what was going on in her mind. And as it turned out, at the end of the season last year, she actually was hit with a ball with a really fast pitcher. And so on her mind, she was like, oh my goodness, I haven't had practice catching. I haven't had, that's what was going on in her mind. It was like, oh, I'm going to get hit with this ball because I'm not ready. And it wasn't about the other team. It wasn't about anything else. It was that fear of getting hit with the ball. So that's what comes up, and that's what it looks like. But there's more emotion behind it. Yeah.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It's interesting to me how we can so quickly go to like the worst case scenario, and it's just like it's so fast.
Yes.
And it's so instant that it's hard to catch that before it even comes to the surface, because it's an instant thing. Like it's every day in conversations you have with people. You're just having a conversation. They're like, oh, and it instantly goes to like what the worst case of that situation is. I'm going to be terrible at that, and I don't know what I'm going to, blah, blah. Like you've shot yourself in the foot before you've even started. And I think it's such a habit that we've all got that, if we can get ourselves more aware of it and kind of catch it before it gets crazy out of control. But it's the catching that's hard.
It's the catching it is hard, because it's so ingrained, and that is how basically fear will run our lives. And we don't even know it's happening, because it's really just an immediate reaction to that underlying fear, I guess is another way to say it. It just sort of is, what is the word I'm looking for? We kind of almost like manufacture it in our brain, and it comes from the anxiety of, well, I can't do that because of this, right? But it really is a deeper fear. And that fear can come from an experience that we've had as a little one, and we've made it mean something about ourselves, and now it's here.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And sometimes it's something, it could have happened to us years ago and we don't even remember it, but it's there. Right? Like it's something that, like I've had that happen too, where all of a sudden it's like, you stop and kind of go like, why am I thinking like what is causing, I've learned in the last kind of 10 years to kind of, okay, when I can catch myself on sometimes, I kind of stop and go, why am I thinking, like, what is that coming, where's that coming from? Like, why am I thinking like that? I haven't even begun, and I'm already trying to like make an excuse or like, make sure it doesn't happen before it starts, because it's the fear of putting yourself out there quite often, and it's that fear of being ridiculed and all of those things, which stems from, as we all know, as kids, kids are ruthless. or can be ruthless. And so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
stems quite often from, as a kid, like whatever, somebody picked on you, or, and you've dealt with it maybe, and you've gone through that, and you think, oh, well, I'm done with it. And then all of a sudden something happens, and it's like you get that fear, like that anxiety starts, and it's like, if I put myself out there, somebody's going to call me stupid, or they're going to,
Yeah.
whatever whatever it is,
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I've seen that in, with social media, and you're involved in different like I'm involved in different groups on social media because of what I do for my work. And it is always interesting to me. Somebody has never posted in that group, and then all of a sudden they'll make a post, and you just know they're probably sitting back going, please don't, they're terrified, but they've gotten up the courage to post, and then somebody will come on there and
Yeah.
just nail them, and it's like, don't do that. It took courage for them to post, right? Like, it's, I've seen that a lot.
Yes.
But so what are
Yeah, and
some,
then we tend to shrink back down.
right?
Like I was just gonna say, we tend to shrink back down and go, okay, no, that just validated everything that was in my head about this fear in the first place. Then I can't go there again. And what our mind likes to do is, and I think this came up when we were talking about writing for you, where you were just like, yeah, I'll do it one day. But what our mind is doing to us at that point in time is keeping us safe, in a sense of, well, you've just done that, and now this is what happens. So you're harmed by this. No, we're not going to do that again. We're not going there again. So it
Right.
speaks very loudly in our mind, and it comes up in lots of different ways. Like you said, it was just, I'm just going to put this off until when I feel like
Yep.
it. But that was a way of a sense of your mind keeping you safe. Like, I'm not comfortable with doing this. I'm not going to do
Yep.
this. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
legitimately did not even connect those two things until you said that to me, and I was like,
Right.
oh, oh, damn you,
Yeah.
fear, damn you. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a tricky one, and I like I said to you before we started the show, I wanted to kind of also talk about how it works in business, because I was saying to you, I've seen recently a lot of people in business that are presenting themselves in a way that is, you can sense that it is based out of, I call it fear-based selling, which I don't know if that's the right term,
Yeah,
but it's
that works.
rather than just coming out and doing what, talking about what you are doing, they come at it in such a way that it's like, whoa, like you just feel it, and it's been a lot lately, and I don't know. I know in corporations, it's hard because it's a number based thing, and it's, you got to have your numbers and all that. So what would be a good way to deal with that if you're a business person and that's kind of what you're geared towards, is obviously your numbers? How do you switch
Right.
that from fear-based to abundance-based?
Well, that is a lot of mindset work.
Uh-huh.
In a case where we're sort of getting in our head and attaching ourselves to that number, and and then in a sales situation, it would be, I need this sale because whatever reason, right? Like it's an attachment to that sale and a need for that sale. So we kind of, and I think you had posted about this, that ego of ours,
Yeah.
our head
Yeah.
decides that, we need this. And we come across then, like you said, it feels that you can feel that need in it.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a pushback, right? It kind of repels.
Right.
And so one goes in needing everything, then it's your customers, I guess, are basically like, no, I'm good, thanks, because
Right.
they feel it.
Yeah.
And if you just, I guess in a sense, if you think like you said in abundance, it's like, I don't need this. I'm just going to do it because I like it. That changes the whole mindset behind it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or
totally
Yeah.
makes, I mean, I get it, totally makes sense to me, because it is that, I think people get confused about fear and abundance, because they are always, you see, it's so big right now too on social media. Everybody's talking, you know, you see all the posts and all the on Instagram and wherever you all are. It's that people posting about their jets and their cars and their you know, money, 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 money. And that's fine, I
Right.
guess. But at the end of the day, if you're in a scarcity or fear-based mindset, how are you going to achieve that?
You're not.
Right.
Just point blank, you're not.
Exactly. Exactly.
And what's interesting in your comment was when you were talking about like people posting about their jets and their cars. That doesn't mean you're abundant necessarily. You might
Right.
have money wealth, but that doesn't mean abundance, because abundance is essentially all areas, right? Like abundance of
Right.
being happy, abundance of having people in your life that are important to you. Abundance is so many levels, right? It's not just about money. Of course, we all want to be
Right.
abundant as far as having money,
Right.
but it
It's
is
a
just sort of
necessity.
refocusing our thoughts about money. Well, it is. It's right up there with air, right?
Yeah, pretty
But it's
much. Yeah.
just kind of checking in with our thoughts, checking in with our thoughts about money and how we actually feel about it. Like if we walk around feeling like we never have enough, well, you're never really just going to have enough. And that is the
Right.
mindset piece. You know, I had this conversation not too long ago with someone about paying bills. Is even just being grateful, the fact that you have the money to pay the bill, and just, you know,
Right.
kind of, I guess, being grateful around it, which can be really hard because often when we get a bill in the mail, we're thinking, oh man, now I got to pay blah, 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 right? And immediately
Right.
it's sort of that brain wants to go to that lack of having it rather than, oh, right on,
Yes.
I can actually pay this. Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
had to switch that
And
myself, because it is that whole thing. When those bills come in, it's automatic. You want to start cursing, you know, oh my God, this stupid
yeah,
blah, blah, blah cable bill or whatever bill it might be. It doesn't matter. I had to switch that around and
yeah,
go, you know what? I'm I'm very grateful I'm getting this cable bill, because that means that I'm doing okay. I can pay that bill. And if I can't pay it, you know what? I'm going to pay part of it.
yeah,
Like, you know, and not be stressed about I don't have that money. It's switching that around
yeah,
into the, like you're saying, with gratitude. And I think if, again, gratitude plays such a huge role in everything. So I think if,
yes,
when you're,
yep.
you know, gratitude and fear, I don't know if they can't coexist really.
Right. Well, except for they do sort of,
They kind of do.
because you
Yeah.
know they do, yeah. And when you were talking about that, what made me think of was somebody who had immediate had a car that they had to repair. Well, they need that car, and so immediately it was, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to pay for these repairs to be done?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, wait, I need that car, and paying for that will let me get to where I have to go every day, right? So
Right.
like that's what you had said even about the cable is like, I have this cable I can watch, and I guess cable
Yeah.
isn't a need necessarily, but
Yeah.
you can be grateful you have it, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And I
And
think,
it's just the fear and lack kind of come from the same place. It's,
mhm,
that fear, like you had talked about, even just selling, that fear of never having enough and not ever making it. It is sort of based in that whole concept of I'm going to be a failure. So we kind of make it mean something about ourselves.
right.
And, when you're talking about being grateful and having fear, um, in the case of sales, again,
Mhm.
so we kind of tend to think of more of the sales we haven't made than the more of the sales that we have. It's like, oh wait, I can do this. I am able to do this,
Right.
rather than, oh my goodness, I need this because I need to make this amount of dollars and blah blah blah. Like, if that makes sense, where the
Yes,
being grateful
exactly.
and the fear kind of connect. Yeah,
Yeah.
if
And
that kind of goes where you're talking about them coexisting.
yeah, it's kind of like they coexist, but yeah, they can't get along. They're roommates that don't get along
One
very
has to
well.
overpower the other.
Yeah, I
No,
think,
no, they don't.
no. Yeah, I think it's a very I mean, people have it based around so many things, not just even work, but in personal life, like the fear, I think a lot of it stems to I'm not good enough, like you get that fear that
Absolutely.
you're not a good enough parent, you're not a good enough spouse, you're not it's those core things that people have, and it's purely based on a fear of losing that person, or whatever that might be.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, and the fear itself is based sort of on, like, again, that emotion and that fear of, yeah, losing or not being worthy. But actually, it was interesting, and this just came out for me before. I don't know if have you ever actually like looked up the definition of fear,
No.
like the actual,
The dictionary
dictionary definition?
yeah,
No.
no,
So
no.
it was interesting. No, but it's funny because it sort of goes to say that, all of our fears are here. But I think it was you I was talking to when it came up that it's not physical danger or loss, like physical loss or physical danger,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's sort of here. It's not actual danger. And maybe it wasn't you. It could have been just a friend I had a conversation with. Otherwise, it was just, well, in this situation, at the end of the day, like, did we physically, you know, fall apart? Did we physically die? No, no, we didn't. So
Right.
that's where the fear is, up here, right?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know how that just came up, but
Yeah.
it did.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think people too, like, especially if we're gonna, talk about relationships, and like, that's fear is a huge part in a relationship if both people are not comfortable in that relationship. Like, it's an uncomfortable relationship. We see it all the time, whether it's a toxic relationship or just one person's like very self-conscious or uncertain, like they're not certain in that, they're not rooted in that relationship, they're like something isn't sitting well with them, and fear just comes in and takes that over big time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So their fear, it's vulnerability, I guess, right? Their
Mm-hmm.
fear is to be fully vulnerable in a situation like that,
Mm-hmm.
and fear of losing themselves a little bit, and just setting healthy boundaries and just knowing what they're all about, right? Like, it just,
Mm-hmm.
again, it goes back to that fear of not being worthy, that fear of losing one's sort of own self, or being lonely, even, like there's a needy attachment in that. And
Yeah.
there's so many levels of it, really, in any
Right.
relationship or personal life, as far as, even with your kids, or just caring about your everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of levels to it. Yeah.
Oh, kids are a huge one,
Uh,
because, like, people, I know personally, people they live kind of in fear something's going to happen to their kids. Like, something terrible is going to happen
mm,
to their kids. And so they, like, they do that. They become that overprotective, like, they want them to live in a bubble almost. And that's it.
yeah.
That's a crippling thing to do, not only to that, like, the person themselves that has that fear, but to those kids. And it's hard to make people understand, like, to kind of overcome that fear, because it is such a rooted in some people that those something bad's going to happen to those kids. That's a tricky one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's almost a projection onto them, right? Of,
Right.
like, your own fears would be projected onto them. So, it's almost like you create this world of, and then they will all of a sudden too. You kind of create that fear in their mind. Well,
Right.
this could happen to me. I can't leave my house because of this, right?
Right.
And that is, again, just a lot of layers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I guess this topic, it is so many, like you say, it's so many layers because there's so many things that cause it that are at the root of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. We don't always know what it is.
Right. Yeah.
Whoops.
So
Um,
when people have like 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 you're saying, a fear of flying, or those kind of fear, those type of things, what are some things that they can use as tools to kind of like help calm that fear? What can they do? Like if somebody is absolutely terrified of flying, what are some things that they can do to kind of help overcome that?
Actually, it's funny that, and maybe like I had suggested flying, but it's funny that you said that. I was talking with somebody about this, and what this particular person had done is they educated themselves actually on the whole, like what flying is all about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when there's turbulence or there's, you know, all of a sudden the jet slows down or it goes forward, you know, really just educating themselves what it is like to fly. And what's really interesting in that was at the end of that conversation, she's like, oh my goodness, like all of the things I ever missed out on because I always chose
Right.
not to fly.
Yeah.
And so what comes up in that is like everything we always want is on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my goodness, my whole world has opened up because I actually stepped into this fear. And now look at this whole world of freedom I've created for myself. I'm not
Right.
scared to do this. I'd prefer not to,
Yeah.
personally based, but look at this whole world that I've just opened up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like getting over that fear will take you places and will get you to where you want to go. If,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's helping people
It's
get
almost
to
like
that point.
the saying,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. And in our conversation, I guess that we had, you and I, was that's exactly what happened, right?
Yes.
It was just having awareness of that
Yeah.
fear, bringing that to awareness is like, oh, this is how I always react in this certain situation. And that is fear basing it. It's not
Yeah.
me, it's nothing about me, it's just something that I can relate to, an experience that I've had before. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting because after we went back and forth on text on that, the next day I sat down and I did write. And I did write my first page of like whatever I wrote. But anyways, and it was like, what the heck? Like what if, like, it's so crazy because once you do get past that point, it's like, oh my, like what the heck? This wasn't so bad after all.
It isn't, right?
Yeah.
You physically did not harm yourself by writing.
I did not, and
Nope.
I didn't harm anybody else because they don't have to read it. But
Exactly. Which
yeah,
is sort of
so
interesting because that was a little bit of that fear was that I have to write this so
mhm.
people will read it. Well, no, you don't have to write it so people read it. You can write it just
Right.
to have it all out and just
Yeah.
because it interested you in the fact of writing it all together, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and that
for sure.
like that and that was part of my fear. Part of that fear was, how are people going to react to this if I do write this? You know, it yeah,
Yeah,
that's a huge fear.
exactly.
Hmm.
And that like again, it goes back to public speaking. How speaking, pardon me, is
Yeah,
how are people going to react to me, or how are people going to react to what I
exactly.
have to say or my thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that will stop us in our tracks for just about everything.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
what does this mean about me? Right?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
most definitely. Most definitely. Um,
Yeah.
what was
So
I
it's
gonna
just rejection and judgment that plays a huge part, right? And even like you were talking about in business, it's
mm-hmm.
that, yeah, that can stop us from a lot of different successes in life too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because I've become involved with this group of people on Facebook, and what is remarkable to me is, you know, the amount of people now who will open up, like if they're struggling or if they're having issues or whatever the case may be, they're putting themselves out there, whereas before they would never have done that. And I think it's because, you know, for the most part, they feel it's a safety thing. I think if you know if it's safe with somebody, you're more, that fear maybe will get less, because your vulnerability, being vulnerable is horrible. Like it's a horrible, but it's like a horrible feeling, because it's like you're putting yourself out there, and that's a scary, scary thing to do. Very scary.
Very, very.
Yeah.
I know, I've lived it.
Yeah.
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 Like I was saying,
mean,
actually, yes, just,
sorry,
go ahead.
No, we've got there's a slight delay, I think, in our time.
Well, there is, and it sort of cuts out every now and then, so I'm trying to pick up what's being said. So no, I was just going to say I have done it. Like the very first time I think I ever did my Facebook Live ever, going from somebody who had never really even been on Facebook really much at all. I'm sure it took me 20 minutes to hit that button, go live. Yeah. But the more we do these things, and the more we like really face the fear and do it anyway, the easier and easier it gets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's like these Facebook Lives that we do on this platform. I've asked people to come on. They're like, you know what? I'll do it when I'm not scared. always like, it's all good. It's just you and I have, you know, it's you and I having a conversation, and you know, there's people watching. We just can't see them. Nothing to be scared about.
Yeah. They're there, but they're really not.
Yes, they're peeking over the fence like Wilson on Home Improvement or whatever that show was. But it's
exactly.
Yeah. But it is, I get it. I mean, but like you say, like I remember the first ones I did too back in the beginning of this when I started it, and I was like, I don't know about this. Like, what am I doing? And all this, and it's ended up being like an incredible platform for people. So it's, you know, it's been awesome. And being able to have people like yourself on and other people that, you know, add to that conversation. And I think it's just great that, you know, if they are nervous or scared, they can sit back and watch it, and we don't have to see them, and they're safe. So it's okay.
Yes, absolutely, Carla. And I know you had asked me a little bit. I think, like I said, there's a time delay, so I'm picking things up here. But you had mentioned something about, well, how do people actually deal with this fear? Like, because we don't often recognize it. And I guess, like I had mentioned, I think at the earlier part of the call, is like that is essentially where coaching actually comes in, because we don't know what's going on. We don't know that fear is there. And, you know, sometimes there's something we're after, a goal or whatever be the case, that we're trying to get, and it's just like something's here stopping that from happening. And 90% of the time it is fear. And it's just kind of working through those fears, maybe becoming aware of what they are, and then just taking steps to get through them, and really seeing, almost like envisioning ourselves on that other side, and and really kind of embodying what that feeling is. Once you've done that, oh wait, like this is quite amazing. And you know, kind of looking back at the person who's quite fearful and saying, hey, no, like you really have got this. You know how to do this.
Yeah. So how can people, we're going to put a link in there, but can people, what's the best way they can get a hold of you if they're interested in doing some coaching?
They can always reach out by message to me. I do have a link where it connects with just having what I refer to as like a clarity session. It's just a free session, and to get clarity in that, as far as that awareness of maybe the fear, or maybe it might not even be about fear. It could be just random, whatever that person is needing in their life, right? And So I'll drop that link as well in the comments. I should see if I can
Yeah.
actually do it while we're speaking, because
Yeah.
then I'll be focused on here and not just
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Right. And you
I
also,
certainly will try.
yeah, you also have a retreat coming up, right?
I do. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really
So
excited. Yeah.
yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that and how people can get registered?
Okay, well, I will put that link in the comments too. I finally have the actual registration link up and running.
Great.
I've been kind of speaking about it without the link, but yeah, it's in the beginning of June, about a month away on the 8th and 9th, and it's at a like really nice, beautiful cabin at Last Mountain Lake. Or, yeah, you'd be familiar with
Yep.
Last Mountain Lake
Hmm.
out in BC.
Yeah.
By the way, I like your shirt.
Yes, right. Gotta represent.
uh, Yeah, I love it. So yeah, it's at Last Mountain Lake, and it's a 2-day event. So being that it is on the lake, we plan to do some outdoor activity, and I, yeah, I have got some real, I have someone coming in and cooking some amazing, amazing food for us. So it just sort of takes because I've really kind of stepped into a busy lifestyle for myself now with 2 kids in ball, and it's go, go, go. And it's like
Right.
schedules and timelines and, okay, you got to be here and and that is often how people run their life all year round, right? So it's
Yeah.
just nice to be able to go somewhere and not have to think about any plans, schedules, or planning of any kind. And it's just to be able to just kind of breathe and relax and just
Right.
like be kind of
Yes.
catered to. And actually, it's
Yeah.
funny that we are talking about fear today because, yeah, I've got some really cool, little bit like training planned, I guess, in that retreat as well, and some fun stuff,
Right.
and just it's the connection with other people who, just have some laughter and some good connections. So
Yeah.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, what would you say
yeah.
to those women who want to come to the retreat, but they are fearful of what will happen when they leave, or they are fearful they are being selfish? Because that's a huge one.
Yes. That
Yeah.
is very big.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of we forget about ourselves in that, and because we do put other people first very often. Guilty, I've done it.
Yep.
But we also forget that if we don't take care of ourselves and really just, you know, I guess self-care, right? Can be easy as little time each day. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we aren't the best person for our family, and we're not the best person for our jobs. We're not the best person because
Right.
we're like physically and emotionally drained, and that
Right.
is where we kind of forget, and then we feel guilty because we've taken time for ourselves. But it's just really focusing on, you know what, no, I am doing this for everybody else too. It's not
Right.
just about me needing to take time for
Yep.
myself. So it kind of changes that mindset of being selfish and guilty. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
You have a lot
Yeah,
of people who they get very, very nervous about leaving their kids with their husband or their significant other because are they going to take
yeah.
care of them the way they should be? And it's always
Yeah.
if they're surviving when you get home, that's all good.
Yeah. As long as
Yeah.
their basic needs are met, that they're
Right?
fed, they're clothed, depending on the ages,
Yeah.
like that's really all that matters. We just have to put aside the fact
Yes.
that the house might look a little chaotic.
Right.
They might eat just, you know, what depending. And I shouldn't say this because lots of men love to cook, but
Yeah.
they're busy too, right?
Yep. They
So
are. Yep.
yeah, it's just letting go of a little piece of that controlling the situation, and the harder we
Yes.
try and the harder we control
Yeah.
it, the more chaotic it is.
Right.
And I don't mean
Right.
controlling in a really controlling sense, but just yeah, the
Yeah.
more we kind of get anxious and worry about it, it's gonna just cause more problems. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, I think we will wrap it up on that note. So thank you so much
Okay.
for being a part of this again, Lori. I appreciate it. You're going to come back after your retreat, and we can talk more about some other topics and stuff. But
Sure.
yeah, make sure you put all your links in there. And so for everybody that tuned in, we are thankful that you guys did, and we'll go back if there's questions in there and we'll answer them after the live is done. And just thank you guys all for watching. Yeah, it's hard to do both. It's that multitasking thing, so it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
But I see there's
to reply to one person.
Yeah, there's a good comment on there.
There is some comments.
Yeah, so we'll answer those. But thank you guys all so much for joining in. Thanks, Lori, for being a part of it. You guys go out, have a great weekend. Do one thing today that lights your soul up, and we will see you guys all next week. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, bye. I want to say something too.
Yes,
hold on,
go
Carla.
Ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, don't. No, I was just going to say something more to that. And I forget that there's the delay, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, I was just going to say the same and encourage everybody to go out and do one thing for themselves. And if it feels uncomfortable, just remember how good it will feel when the day is done. And when you put your head on that pillow tonight, you'll go to bed feeling very grateful that you did that one thing for yourself. And you just, it creates a really good feeling of joy. You work through the uncomfortable, and it's a very freeing feeling. So go out and do it. Awesome. I encourage you all.
Yes.
All right, Carla. And I also say thank you again to you. And I'm glad we met today, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend as well.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll be chatting.
Okay.
Bye.